Hello?
Hello, Corey?
Yes.
Yes, sir. This is Izzy from MA Jam Live. How you doing this evening, sir?
Good, and yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad. I appreciate you taking time out of your evening to chat with us here on MMA Jam Live. Thank you, sir.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Definitely, definitely. Now we'll get right into it. Now you've been fighting professionally now for a little over a year. What initially attracted you to the sport?
Nothing really attracted me to the sport. Ben Askren actually he coached me my senior year in college, and after he invited me to the gym, Duke Group was, and I went up there, and like I never really was a big fan of MMA, and I followed it a little bit, but was never really into it. But one day I decided to try to practice with Askren, and I ended up liking it. It was just kind of like I was still competing, you know. So next thing you know, I was fighting.
Well, speaking of competing, you wrestled at Division III Wisconsin Whitewater, where as a senior you placed second in your weight class. Now, how did that experience help prepare you for a career in mixed martial arts?
I mean, that experience helped me with everything in life more than just mixed martial arts. But with mixed martial arts, it's just you get used to wrestling in front of a lot of people, and it's kind of like going out in the cage the same way. Like I explained to people, the octagon and the wrestling mat isn't much different, except you got a wall around you. It's kind of the same shape without the sharp corners to make the octagon. You take the corners away, you got a circle. So it's just like learning to play your area. Like on the wrestling mat, you got to control your area. You want to keep guy in the middle of the mat. Same thing in the cage. Keep them in the middle of the cage and know your barriers. And then just that one-on-one competition, just knowing it's just you and one other person. You don't have to depend on 10, 8, or 7 other guys to go out there and get the victory, or if you lose, it's all on you. So, I mean, being a wrestler my whole life, I've always had that one-on-one competition mentality where I know I just got to go out there and work harder than the other guy. I can't depend on somebody else.
Now, in terms of training, how does training in wrestling compare to training in mixed martial arts? Are there similarities, or is one tougher than the other?
I mean, you got your similarities. You got your lifts are kind of similar. Sometimes the cardio is similar, but when it comes to the grind matter, wrestling is just a little bit more of a grind because it's 7 minutes. In college, you got 7 minutes of the whole 7 minutes you're in contact with one another. You don't have the space between you. You can't really take a breather. You can't bounce around and circle away or stay on the mat and hug somebody just to recover your energy and lay there. Wrestling is like you're always going at it. You're going at it for 7 minutes, nonstop, either forward, backwards, circling, taking shots, coming up, crawling. You're on the bottom, fighting to get up. And you always got somebody on top of you, underneath you, or holding on to you. When in MMA, you got your 3-4 feet distance between you and your opponent. You can kind of bounce around and just play it safe. You can conserve energy that way. Some people like to wait back and wait for the person to attack them, and some like to go forward at all times, like the wrestler mentality. Keep my hands on you at all times and wear you down.
Well, it seems like a big difference also between wrestling and MMA is in MMA you typically see a guy take maybe a round off to start feeling out, whereas in wrestling it's just immediately you have to start scoring points. Is that the way it works?
Pretty much. You come out the whistleblower and it's go. I mean, you get guys that want to wait to the end and start scoring, but it's not smart. A great wrestler's going to come out and attack at all times. The whole 7 minutes, he's on the mat, he's working to score points. I mean, the only other thing that's separated is instead of just wrestling, now you got to worry about punches and kicks and submissions. In wrestling, all you got to do is worry about a guy attacking your legs or your upper body, trying to take you down or turn you or flip you, whatever it is. But in MMA, you have a lot more things that's dangerous that can hurt you or cause you to lose. And it's not, you don't know the score. It's like wrestling, you know the score. You racking up points yourself. For MMA, you got to depend on the judges to score it at the end.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, in terms of the grind, is it more strenuous to like have a 7-minute wrestling match, or is it more strenuous to like have a 15-minute MMA match?
It depends. It can go either way. It depends on how MMA match it is. If it's a standing and banging where you swinging 15 minutes, it's grueling. The shoulders are tired, chest is tired, the arms, the hands, everything from being clenched. But if you go out there and you instantly start wrestling on one each other, and you get to the mat, you can sit on top of somebody, control them. The guy on top he's in great position to keep energy. He won't wear himself down as much. But the guy on the bottom, you're fighting to get up the bottom the whole time, avoiding submissions, and you're wearing yourself down. As in wrestling, when you go out there and somebody take one person down, the whole 7 minutes, both of you are scrambling. The whole 3 minutes, first period, you're both scrambling. The second period, 2 minutes, you're both scrambling, fighting. And the third period, you're both scrambling and fighting. There's really no breaks off. There's no in-between time. In between periods, you flip your coin. You usually get like 10 to 15-second breaks. When MMA, you get to go back to your corner, sit down, drink water, get ice, get any injuries rubbed out or checked out, whatever, shortly, and then you back out there. I mean, it's all different. It's got its differences, but it's still got similarities.
Definitely a very interesting first-hand perspective. Now you mentioned that Ben Askren was pretty persistent in getting you to try MMA. Is there a reason why you were apprehensive about wanting to try MMA?
I mean, I got a lot of injuries from wrestling. Had a lot of injuries from wrestling. Broke my leg in 3, dislocated both my shoulders. Both my shoulders are torn. Bad knees. I had heart problems, back problems, different neck problems, different things I didn't think would hold up well in the MMA game. I figured I would just mess around and get hurt instantly with all the full contact and checking kicks and all the different stuff. I was kind of nervous and cautious about those things. But, I mean, it got to a point where I just figured it's either go for it or don't. Try it or always wonder what if. So I just went on to try it one day. The gym loaned me some equipment. I went out there and I ended up liking it. So.
Now, shortly after trying, you started, training in mixed martial arts. You had one amateur fight before going pro, something that's pretty much unheard of by today's standards. Did nerves factor into the decision to go pro, and were they present during your first pro fight?
No, nerves didn't really hit me to go pro. Nerves are part of competing, period, but the fact of going pro, no. That wasn't what I was nervous about. I was technically supposed to go nervous in my very first fight, but my opponent didn't have any of his blood work or anything done. So when I got to the arena, and the commissioner lady wouldn't let me fight anybody else, and there was a guy there, amateur, that was looking for a fight. And she's like, well, you technically aren't pro, so you can fight this, and it'll be okay. So I took that opportunity so I can get cage time, just so I could see what it would be like to be in the cage, to get that feeling. And after that, I just knew it was, like a 16, 17-second knockout, and I knew, I took him down and ground and pounded him out, and I was just comfortable right then and there. I knew that I didn't think it was going to be any competition or any reason for me to stay at the amateur level. So I was ready to go pro. I ended up going pro literally 2 weeks later. 2 weekends later, I drove to Milwaukee and fought pro, and I was excited by it. I was injury-free from my last fight, and I was still well prepared. So I went out there and did what I had to do. Another quick finish, and from there I just kept the ball rolling.
Now, after that amateur win, after you got the feeling, the sensation, and you were happy about it, is that something that reinforced your love for the sport? Is that something that really sold you on going pro and continuing on that journey?
Kind of. At the time, I was dating a girl who had been together for a while, and she loved the sport of fighting, and she supported me, but I just wasn't. So I wasn't sure, but I had kind of had the first fight and the second fight lined up back to back. And I told her I was going to try these 2 fights. However they go, that's going to determine what I'm going to do. If I'm going to stick to MMA or it's just have those 2 fights and be done. Well, after that second fight in Milwaukee, and everybody told me, man, you're going to be a beast. You're just good. You look so cool out there for that to be your first fight. That's just scary. And I just knew from there, okay, it's obviously that fighting is what I need to be doing. This is my calling. So if I'm good at it and I'm going to dedicate myself, I'm going to stick to it and ride it out till the wheels fall off. So here I am.
Now it mentions in your tough. I was reading your UFC tough bio, and it mentions that you're also an assistant wrestling coach at Lincoln College, and as well as a supervisor at Holland Trucking. Now, in terms of time management, how difficult is it to manage your time at your job as a coach and training? How difficult is it to manage that time with so much stuff going on?
At first, when I first started, when I moved down to Lincoln, it was difficult. I don't do that stuff anymore with the show and everything kicking off, and I had to devote so much more time to training and interviews. I had to go ahead and push that stuff aside for now until the show was over and all the the radio interviews and stuff slow down. But when I was doing it, it was the first 2 months. It was kind of crazy. You know, I was running around like chicken with my head cut off, forgetting stuff. Run out of the house with kitchen utensils instead of my keys in my bag. Like, man, what am I doing? Like, forgetting stuff. But eventually I figured it out. I was prepped for things on Sunday. I was prepped my whole week Sunday, pack all my bags and gear. And when I take off in the morning, I just had everything with me. And I wouldn't come home till like 1 o'clock in the morning when I got off from work. It was pretty nonstop to go from place to place to place. But like I said, after the second month, it was pretty simple. It was like I woke up and it was robotic. I didn't have to think about it. It was the same thing every day.
Now, speaking of the show, what were the tryouts like, and how nerve-wracking was it to wait, to hear back from the UFC telling you that, whether or not you made it?
The tryouts, it was a little funny how it worked. It was, I wouldn't say funny. That was something else I wasn't really into doing. I didn't really want to go. Like I said, I was at work. My coach called me and said, the tryouts are going tomorrow. And I was exhausted. I went straight from working night shift to the tryouts and then back to work after the tryouts. But it was kind of nerve-wracking, like, to go there. And I gave it my best, knowing I gave it my best, and then you had to wait till the phone to ring and just waiting and waiting. And my phone didn't ring until like 3 days before they wanted it in Vegas. And I guess there was something going on with getting my blood work and stuff back. When they got it back, they said, we want you to come back out for the next part of the show. Are you available? I went.
Now, can you describe your emotions when you actually did find out that you were going to be given the opportunity to fight your way into the house?
I was nervous. I was excited. I was prepared. It was a lot of things. I mean, when I went to the trials and I saw the guy ended up fighting and getting in the house, we were old college teammates, Carolina, or we weren't teammates. He graduated before me, but we used to work out when he came back. I worked out with him a few times, and I told my coach, like, definitely they're going to make me fight. They're going to make me fight him. It's going to make this TV. 2 old guys from the same school fight each other to get in the house. That's what people want to see. And that kind of excited me more because I kind of felt like I had something to prove with that. It was a school rival thing. But at the same time, it was nerve-wracking because this guy had been fighting since like 2007, and I was new to the thing. He was pretty good at his jiu-jitsu. His wrestling was about as good as mine. But at the same time, I knew I worked harder and prepared harder than anybody in my division. So I had to go out there and handle business.
Based on the little stories we heard prior to your fight with Kelly, I was like, man, I feel like the UFC strategically put this together. Like they planned it all along. They saw that you guys had something, and I mean, maybe it's just a coincidence, but I don't believe in, coincidences when it comes to this. But it was interesting that they matched them up with you. Now, you ended up defeating them by unanimous decision. Can you describe what was going through your mind as you were being announced the winner and you were moving on to the house?
I mean, in my mind, I was thinking that's one more stepping stone I can add to the resume. I finally defeated somebody that's the thing. You got to know the background between us. When you went to the college we went to, the head wrestling coach, me and him didn't get along too well. And him and Kelly was like good friends. So he always used to boast and brag on Kelly's name and talk about how Kelly, if I ever had to fight Kelly in MMA, Kelly would destroy me. He would beat the heck out of me. There's no way I could ever compete with him in the MMA world. And the fact that opportunity came, that I actually got to do it on national TV, that was a great feeling. It was more than just a win to get in the house. It was a win to prove something to an old coach that didn't have any respect for me, who didn't really care for me. He just did everything he could to try to make me miserable while I was in school there. And it's kind of like I sent a message to him without even saying anything. Like I proved wrong. All the things he used to say to me, proved wrong tonight on national television, and everybody saw it, and everybody was rejoiced about it. A lot of people called me and was so excited about the result of it when I got home and the show aired because they all had heard that story and wanted to see what would actually happen if the match ever did happen. And it was kind of fun that it worked out that way. You don't have to wonder what if anymore. It's been over. It's written.
Now, obviously, there was a lot of pressure on you because a win and you're into the house, and maybe if you lose, you're obviously out. But how much more pressure was on you, given the fact that you really needed to get that victory over Kelly? I mean, was there added pressure?
You know, it wasn't that. I mean, I got pressure before pretty much any competition. It's just because you got the pressure, you want to win. Nobody wants to lose. You want to be the best. You want to go out there and give your best performance. So it wasn't no extra pressure, but there was pressure, of course. So like I said, when with my game plan, I talked to my MMA coach before I went to the arena. He came up to the room and talked to the coaches when I was in the back room and told them what I planned to do, and we worked what I had to do to get that done. And I executed the plan 99% what I wanted to.
Now, on a lighter note, in this past episode, we talked about this earlier on the show, but I wanted to get your opinion. We see, it's Halloween, and we see Mike King and Josh Clark dress up as a nurse and a maid, respectively, in one of the funniest and uncomfortable scenes I've ever seen. How did that moment play out live? Like, what was it like to see that live?
I didn't get to see it live. We were actually at practice at the moment when that happened. Yesterday it was or Wednesday when the show aired, that was my first time seeing it. That happened. I had no clue of it being done. So I can't really express how I would have felt about that.
What were your thoughts seeing it on TV? Like, what are your thoughts?
But, I mean, it was kind of jaw-dropping. The fact that two grown men wanted to dress like women and walk around in a house full of dudes. I mean, we haven't seen a woman or been around a woman in 6 weeks, and you guys come in and you want to wear women outfits. And we already was giving Mike a hard time because of his hair, and he kind of was feminine about his hair, and it's like, now you just add it to the fire. But like I said, I'm glad I didn't get to see it till after the show, because I'm sure it would have made his stay in the house a little more harder, with people always nagging at him about that as well.
That's too funny. Now, in the same episode, you picked up your next win. You defeated Josh Clark by a majority decision to advance to the semifinals. What did that moment mean to you? I know it's another step, in the right direction, but what did that moment mean to you?
And pretty much like you just said, just another step. It proved me. First, I beat a good jiu-jitsu guy and a good wrestler, and then this time I marked off a professional boxer. In fact, just marking my way up the ladder. A lot of people say, oh, he's just a good wrestler. If he matches up against a good wrestler, he's not going to beat him. Well, my first fight to get in the house was against a good wrestler as well. So I beat him, and he had good jiu-jitsu. So I beat that, marked that off the board. Then they're like, well, if you go up against a good boxer because his hands isn't that good, you hear people talking about that leading up to this. So there's no way he can be a good boxer when I beat him up. So it's just like I've been steady marking different goals and things people say I can't off the board, just trying to show everyone that I can't. Like I said, even if it came out to where I was the one to win the show, or if I didn't make it to the finale, whatever, that's not the long-term goal. The long-term goal is to be the best in the world in the UFC. So, I mean, like I said, everything I accomplished leading up to that opportunity is just going to be stepping stones until I get to the main goal.
Definitely a good way to look at it. Definitely a good perspective as well. Now, how would you describe your overall experience in the house and on Team Edgar, and is it something that you'd do again?
Yeah, I would definitely do it again in a heartbeat, and the one way I can describe it is life-changing. I mean, the connection I had with all the coaches, from Frankie to Mark to Ricardo to Marlon, Edson, Anderson, everybody, all the coaches, it was just instantaneously when we was in the back room working. Every time they told me anything, I did it. It clicked with me. I didn't have to say, but I don't think that's going to work, or Coach, what is this? I just kept an open mind. Like I said, I was so young in the sport and youth. I came in the house as a spud, looking to take in everything and anything given to me from any fighter or any coach. And that was my perspective through the whole thing. Everything I heard, I took it home. I wrote it in a notebook, and I got it to this day. I go over it, and I just continue to learn from those things.
Now, what would you say is the most important thing that you took away from your experience?
The most important thing I took away from the experience is everybody's going to be different. Everybody trains different. Everyone fights different. Everyone has a different way of recovery, eating, and everything. But the most important thing is to find a great balance of what's going to work for you. Find good coaches at good locations and things that you like in your fight and build off of that. Don't go with what people think will work best for you or what other people do. Find your blend, your mixture, your recipe, and build off of those things every day. Every time you go to the gym, you focus on that. If you are a grinder, you stick to grinding. Learn how to work your striking and wrestling and jiu-jitsu into your grind mentality. And just make sure you're taking care of your body. It's good to go hard all the time, but make sure you find the proper balance where you're not overworking yourself to where you're always worried about injuries.
Absolutely brilliant words, Corey. Now, where can we find you, before we let you go, where can we find you on Facebook and or Twitter?
You can find me on Facebook. I got a fight fan page at Corey Beeston 258 Anderson. Or you can find me Corey Anderson. And then Twitter and Instagram, you can find me at Corey ACOREYA _MMA. I accept all friend requests on Facebook and love to hear from the fans and supporters in the world and share my story with you guys so you can follow my journey.
Definitely. We'll do what we can to get that information out. Corey, it was a tremendous honor having you on. I really appreciate you taking time on a Friday, no less, to chat with us here for a couple of minutes here on MMA Jam Live. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. Much appreciated. It was great. Hope you guys enjoyed the show and hope you guys have a good rest of your show tonight.
Definitely. Thank you so much, sir, and we look forward to chatting with you again. Take care.
All right. See you.